Welcome to another video, guys. This is Hayden here. I've got another guest today. We're going to talk about psychosis and things. This is Anna. She has her own YouTube channel called Burn Truth. I'll put it in the description. Yeah, Burn Truth. I'll put that in the description below so you guys can check out her channel. She posts about psychosis, right? And yeah.
Yeah, just outline my experience.
And your experience. Cool. So definitely check her channel out. Today we're going to be talking about like how to make sense of your psychosis experience and just, about psychosis and mental health and all kinds of stuff. So with that, I'll go ahead and let Anna take it away. She can talk about her experience with her psychosis.
Sweet. So I guess it happened or kind of began to happen in 2019. I had like a really short and powerful dream one night. I just kind of started going to therapy and kind of like working through some of my issues. And then, like this dream just like made my body shake, like made me feel ill. I just didn't really know what to do. I didn't know what to like call it. And I was like, this dream, that has to mean something. But when I went to medical professionals, they kind of just said like, yeah, like you have psychosis, which for me at the time wasn't useful because I kind of wanted answers because I didn't understand. Like I've had so many dreams like in my life and they've never like created such a strong reaction. So I was kind of like, like fair. Went back to uni and like didn't really take any of the medication. And then decided to try some EMDR therapy. And if people kind of don't know what that is, it's this therapy that makes your like left and right brain talk to one another. And if you have like repressed memories or just trauma, you can like, it plays this beat in each side of your ear and then it is kind of meant to process things. So I thought that if I tried this out, like maybe I could like unlock my dream and like figure out what it was. And yeah, like it's like interesting around the time that I was thinking about doing it. I found it in a book, and then the next day, someone on my YouTube started talking about it in just one of their videos. So I was like, like maybe this is like a sign that I should try it out. So I did. It was very intense. It's really intense therapy. So if anyone's thinking about getting it, yeah, it's worth noting that. And it basically just caused my dreams to get more and more vivid. Like I was being coached by angels. I was like hearing whole conversations in my dreams, and then I'd have those conversations with people. My dreams would like tell me to do things, and I'd like find like I talk about this in some of my videos, but in one of the dreams, it was teaching me about judgment, and then afterwards, they referenced a guy at the end of the dream, and I looked him up on my phone, and this person actually existed. And the whole I could maybe go into more detail later on. There's just so many bits to my story, but this guy at the end of the dream, it was like, be more like this guy, like think more positively. And this guy like actually writes books about positive affirmations, and I didn't even really know about any of this stuff. So at this time I was like, whoa, like what is happening? Like is this God and all that kind of stuff. And it just kind of kept spiraling. So for about like 2 months, I was just feeling amazing. Like I thought I cured my depression, and I was trying to tell everyone to do this therapy, which now I'm a bit embarrassed about. But was that car? So I was kind of in a really great place. Like I felt like I'd found God and was having really intense dreams, and they just kept getting more and more intense until I decided I was just going to move somewhere new because I felt like I was kind of this new person. And yeah, there it just kind of turned more and more dark. And then I was just completely in this like dream reality for about 2 days until I was like arrested and then put on a ward. So yeah, that is everything. So yeah, I have a lot of kind of like stuff that I was trying to understand afterwards, just because from just kind of hearing that then, like it didn't sound like what's the word? It sounded like pretty benevolent in the beginning, like being coached by angels and like feeling like I found God. So I had like a feeling of being like awake and kind of spiritually connected. And then I got like too deep in, I guess. So a lot of my a lot of the afterwards is just trying to figure out like what was that. Um, yeah, and just trying to piece things together and get my life sorted a bit better too.
Hmm. Yeah, it can get very confusing very quickly because, like, from my experience, like you sort of mentioned how it went from basically like this very like benevolent sort of state down to like this very chaotic sort of like what the heck is going on state.
Yeah.
Like it's very discombobulating because at first like the psychosis feels kind of nice. Like at least from my experience, it was like it was
Mm.
nice and good and like I was like, oh, I'm in this enlightened being. And like the deeper you go in, the more like entrenched you get with the experience, and then you realize
Yeah.
that like, oh my gosh, like I've gone too far, you know, and you're like, how do I get out? And it's just like, wow, how do I like figure out how to get back to where I was before I realized I'm like in a place I shouldn't be in, you know.
Yeah. Like it.
um
Yeah, I feel like it's just like reality shattering. And I think
mhm,
like what it was one of the hardest things is going from like a place where you're completely in your own imagination, like feeling like you're living your truth or you're being like the way you truly should be. And
mhm,
then you're kind of like, well, at least for me, I was arrested. So like the reality was so like polarized from what I
mhm.
was feeling, and the treatment on the ward was just like, yeah, that was the hardest I think thing for me, was going from that state to then being like on a ward where I was like forcibly injected with psychotics, and I
Mhm.
had to stay on the ward for a month
Mhm.
um, in a different country. Um, and there was like no there was no attempt to kind of like talk with you or talk through the experience. Like I'm not sure if it was like the same for you in like
Yeah.
the US, but yeah, there was like real like harsh reality kind of afterwards as well. So I feel like
Yeah, they definitely, I think there's a huge lack of like recognizing the individual when it comes to these experiences because like most people just don't understand the experience and so they just like
mm,
don't even know how to approach people and like I don't want to speak for everybody but like I found that a lot of times people like wouldn't listen to me or they wouldn't trust me or they wouldn't like recognize me as like a person like as a human. There's like one scenario where I felt really like um, prejudiced against, and I started to understand like what it would feel like to be not exactly because it's different, but like someone to have like prejudice against me because of my skin color or something like that. Because like basically, uh, I had a medication, I had a reaction to a medication when I was in the hospital, and it was like very, very, very uncomfortable. And so I said, I don't want to go on this medication. And when they were discharging me, he's like, you need to take this medication. I was like, no, like, I
mm,
will not take this medication. It was extremely uncomfortable, you know? And he's like, well, like, you need to take it. And I was like, no, like, it's almost like he wasn't listening to me. He didn't understand that,
yeah,
like, it was a difficult experience for me. And so it can be very frustrating when people don't like listen to your story and like treat you as a human because of you're in a different state of consciousness. And I think that's one reason why it's so hard for people to process their experiences because people aren't given an opportunity to express like, hey, I experienced this and this was real for me. And then someone to say like, okay, like I hear you and I understand like this was real for you and I recognize that, you know? Like there's
yeah.
something that's powerful about just listening and being like, yeah, okay, I understand that that was real for you, you know?
Yeah, like that was such a good point. Like I feel like so many people were in that state, like on the ward. Like I remember a girl like telling me, she's like, this medication is just like giving me back pain and rashes, like it's killing me. She's like, they're controlling the simulation, like they're controlling my reality. And like I can understand how a doctor would hear her being like, oh, he thinks we're controlling the simulation, like she's obviously crazy, but I was like,
Right.
no, she's like speaking truth. Like you are controlling her simulation in many ways because she's telling you like something about medication and about like where she is on the ward and you're not listening to anything she's saying, but you can't say that when you're there. Like I felt like
Mm.
my voice, like you can't really, I was scared to say anything like that because I was worried that people were just going to say, well, you're crazy, or you're like, yeah, you're just being defiant or something, which I don't think is a
Mm-hmm.
really like good space for people that want to heal. And like I also had like my own, because in my experience, yeah, I'm just recently kind of like working on trying to put this together, but I was kind
Yeah.
of like in this lift of horror. I actually don't know where I was, but in the experience, it felt like I was in this lift that kind of went to the bottom of the underworld, whatever. And I was fighting demons, and like the box was getting like smaller that I was in. It just basically it was like all my biggest fears in this one experience. And when
Mm-hmm.
they arrested me, they took me to an isolation cell, and I was like, "Don't put me in there, like please don't," because I knew it was gonna like reset the experience. I knew as
Trigger
soon
it.
as I was,
Yeah.
yeah, back in there, I was gonna go straight back to the lift that I had
Yeah.
been in before. And they just wouldn't listen to me. And I was like, just leave the door open like a little bit just so I know that like this isn't like a lift. But obviously
Mm.
they hear that and they think that you're crazy and they don't take it into account. Whereas it like and that's where my like experience just like snowballed even further. Like I basically yeah, I became a cartoon at that point, which shows just how like far from reality was. I like it took like them locking me in a room took me completely out of reality, whereas before I kind of had a grasp. So yeah, I
Mm.
think like we definitely need to kind of be listened to, or at least consider that the headspace is like a immersive experience that is real for like the person.
Yeah. That's interesting you said that when they did something it made you like more like put you deeper into the experience because like I experienced the same thing. Like their intervention made me more wild, I guess, because they gave me a medication that basically took all my inhibition away. Like it sedated me, but it took away like my inhibition. I don't remember. Like they gave me some kind of pill and I passed out in the ambulance, and then I came to consciousness at the hospital that they transported me to. And the first thing
Mm.
I remember when I woke up is I was like knocking a pee jar like off of the desk, like they took like a
Mm,
pee sample,
yeah.
you know, and I was like knocking it and like spraying like spreading it all over the place. And like I had no control because like I was on medication, you know.
Mm,
Like if I were there, I would have not done that because I would have known that was not like something to do. So like their intervention made things worse. And I
yeah.
understand like it's very it's scary when dealing with these people because they're like unpredictable. Like I would know I was unpredictable. Like I attacked people in the hospital, you know.
Mm,
And like because I thought I had to like escape my cell in order to like go to heaven because I thought I was in the underworld, and in order to
yeah.
get to the upper world I had to like leave the place I was in, you know. But
Mm.
I also got put in the isolation room my first experience as well, and it wasn't necessarily like traumatic as it was for you, but like it definitely like made me go like more crazy for sure.
Yeah,
Like
because you're just in a room with your imagination and like the whole experience is your imagination. So I feel like it's like taking away like the one thing that you kind of can like ground yourself with. They just like yeah, like that's one of the things that I was just so baffled about. I was like, these people don't seem to understand what's going on in like our heads or really care. They just want to sedate you, which I do understand as well because I was like yeah, very unpredictable and violent. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, like thinking about the experience, I was like, oh my God, everyone was just tackling me to the ground. I'm so small, but I kind of understand now that I like was pretty like vicious in that state.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, there's I feel like the yeah, the more people speak out or the more there is awareness that like this isn't helpful, we could, I don't know, lead to something a bit better because I think what they have is not like it's very baseline, it feels.
Hmm. Well, what do you think? Like, I mean, I this is a hard question for me too. I'm trying to think about it too. But like, what do you think like would be better? Like, how should they handle it? Because like on one end, like they need to make sure that they're safe, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
on the other end, it's like, how do you treat people like us who are going through an experience where we're like we maybe need support, but like what does that look like, you know?
Mm. Yeah, no, I have thought of this because it is really hard because
Yeah.
like I think it would just need actual just experimentation. Like I feel like being there for someone and just kind of like being in the room and kind of being a part of their experience
Hmm.
might have helped because I don't know, at the time I can only really go with what I felt at the time is I wanted someone like a spiritual teacher. I wanted someone who I felt like I could level with and
Right.
wasn't gonna like surveil me or like lock me in a room. I just wanted someone to ask me what was going on, basically, I think.
Right.
So I don't know how helpful that would have been. Um, and I don't know, it would be nice to have like color on the on the ward or like a nice
Right.
outdoor area or something. I think there's like small things like having a garden or like things like that. I feel like I felt really like spiritually connected to kind of the
Mhm.
earth and things like that. But on the ward, you didn't, there was like no I wasn't allowed outside for like a month,
Mhm.
which I think like a lot of people would benefit just from like the garden or just like having people just like I guess yeah in like interested participants just asking like what's going on in their world. I don't know. Like I honestly don't know. Like that's kind of intuitively what I think might help.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think, like you said, that there needs to be more research because I don't know, like, how much extensive research has been done for, like, how to treat somebody for psychosis. I mean, I know there's medication, but as far as, like, a human to human connection, like, what would that look like? And as far as, like, behavioral things, like going outside or exercise or things like that are, like, um, beneficial for anybody. But
Mm,
what kind of role that could play in somebody's recovery from psychosis. And I think I also wanted some kind of spiritual mentor or teacher, like through my experience too. Not somebody that would tell me what to do, but somebody who could understand my experience and like help me navigate through that space, I guess, instead of like trying to get me out of
yeah,
it, but help me to like figure out like a guide through the experience, instead of just like there's no real guide for the experience. Like from my experience, every person I've talked to, it's never been like, oh yeah, like somebody helped me get through it. It's like, well, I figured out that I was crazy and I needed to stop being crazy,
yeah,
um, that's
yeah.
kind of
Which I think is
what
a
most people
shame.
tell me.
I think it's a
Yeah.
shame in a way just because mine was so like rich with like spiritual material and like archetypes. Like I've been getting into like dream analysis and things
Hmm.
just to like try and figure out from that first kind of dream I had of and archetypes seem to explain a lot of kind of the characters that I was kind of like being or the people like yeah, for me I kind of felt like it was kind of like a journey. And I
Hmm.
was like being certain characters, and other people were like playing different roles for me and whatever I was doing. I was obviously doing a lot of like crazy shit to the outside viewer, but in my head, like it wasn't necessarily all nonsense. And I think there's like material that I can work with, and I feel like yeah, we can do it on our own. But it seems like a good step would be to have someone that understands like a little bit that like oh like yeah this subconscious material is coming up and it's not necessarily all nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah, because everything I did during my experience made sense to me. There was like a reason for everything I did. It wasn't just like
Mm.
I'm insane. But yeah, like what kind of stuff? Because I'm sure you've done some analysis already. Like, what kind of things did you like take away from your experience that you're still kind of either working on or trying to figure out, or things that like, you
Yeah.
know, yeah.
Yeah, like yeah, it was interesting. So yeah, the first thing I kind of did was like I tried to write down what I remembered, and then I like realized that it was all like all over the place.
Hmm.
um so then I just kind of like tracked it from when it like was the good feelings and the bad feelings, and I was like, who are the characters that I met in all of the stages. So I like like all of this is weird behavior, I understand, but I like pretended to be like a like a 1920s like housewife.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, one that was like hooked on like pills or booze, and I like obviously was just in this like headspace, so I wasn't on anything, but
Yeah, yeah,
I was
yeah.
like acting like this woman, and I was with a guy at this point, and he became like this like like my like no good. It was like characters in a film. Like he's like my no good kind of like husband who kept like promising me things, and I wasn't like I knew he was kind of like bullshitting me, but I wasn't believing it because I didn't really believe in anything. Like she was
Mhm.
like really like existential woman figure that seemed like a repressed like housewife or something. So like
Mhm.
since that experience, I understand that like that is actually like a way I like a um like she relates to like certain elements of me that are quite like existential and like fears I have about being like a repressed housewife or whatever. So I've kind of
Mhm.
like drawn pictures of her and tried to like relate her to like different feelings and things like that. The guy, yeah, I mean, he could be kind of any kind of man, but yeah, I haven't done much work on him.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, but like I think she was yeah, and then there was an artist kind of like character where I like did a protest in the street, which is kind of things that I kind of wanted to do, but I in the headspace I had no inhibition, so I just did it and I like held up a sign saying insult my art and I just like put all this crazy artwork that I'd be doing while I was in this altered state. Like people must just been like but yeah.
That's
I was like
hilarious.
yeah, I was like this is so metaphorical. Everyone's gonna understand this. But it was like for me basically because I knew that I had kind of stopped doing artwork because I was scared that people were just gonna insult my artwork. But by doing this little thing in the street,
Mhm.
I realized that people kind of don't actively want to insult your artwork. They don't really care. If it's good, they'll like praise it. If they don't, they'll just kind of like leave it. So I did that like little experiment, and then afterwards,
Right.
I kind of tried to just do more art. Like I'm trying to like incorporate the like these characters kind of into my life in the hope that yeah kind of yeah, because they seem like important characters to me at the time. Because I
Mhm.
was like, they were like realizations. I was like, oh, I've like stopped doing art, or yeah, I have this like really kind of existential, kind of depressive side that I just ignore. And
Mhm.
so I think, yeah, for me personally, it felt like beneficial to draw them out and to like figure out what they were.
Yeah, that's a really cool way to approach it. I think there's definitely some truth to that because, like, in the headspace that we are, like, well, I've learned like a little bit about shamanism and psychology and stuff like that. That's always been my interest. So that's something that shamanism, like dream work and stuff like that, it's similar to dream work because we have these parts of ourselves that are in there, and they sort of display themselves as like something different than you. So if they show up in your dream, it might be like an older woman who's like repressed and stuff like that, but it's actually like a projection of you, and it's easier to understand it when it's projected. So
Mm.
that's really cool that like you've sort of been able to look at it that way. Like I never thought of it that way because I was characters in my experience too.
Yeah.
Like
What kind of character?
I identified with like enlightened people. So like
Mm.
Eckhart Tolle, Terrence McKenna, which he's not necessarily enlightened. He just did a lot of drugs. Um, but he experienced some very like altered states, which I was very interested in experiencing. The Buddha, obviously, Christ, obviously.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I was Jesus as well.
yeah, that's pretty common. And I had a friend who was that I met in the psych ward who was also going through psychosis, and he identified as Krishna because he was Indian, and so that's sort of his religious background. So it was interesting how like for him that was his figure, but for like my figure it was Jesus because that's like our predominant figure, you know.
Mm.
Um, but I had some Hindu stuff going on too with some Hindu gods because I'd like relate with them as well. So, but like those, like I have a very like spiritual component to me. Like it sounds like you do too. And so like I kind of resonated with those, and that's like kind of like what like I want to do with my life is like pursue like spirituality and like help people on their spiritual journeys. You know, that's like
Mm.
why I make these videos too, and like I want to share with other people and have them share their story because it is spiritual. It's a spiritual experience, you know. Like
Mm.
all experience is spiritual, but like this is such like a raw and like hard and like unexplored and on like it's not really like talked about, you know.
Yeah, there is such a huge like stigma. Like as soon as this happened, I was like, this felt because I've tried psychedelics and it was really similar to like a
Yeah.
psychedelic trip,
Yeah.
but you don't hear people talking about their experiences in the same way. Like I don't know, on YouTube's probably not the best idea because everyone's like, "Whoa, I took this amount of mushrooms and this is what happened." But
Yeah.
yeah, there's like an integration phase and people look at it and they're kind of like yeah, they have a different outlook on it. Whereas this happens to people just shut down and shut away, and they're like, "Oh my God, that was so embarrassing," because elements of it are embarrassing, and they're you like it's frightening to people around you because you're in this head state, and you. It's not like when you're on a drug like that leaves you, and then you're kind of back to normal. Like
It's
with
like
this,
not personal.
yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas this is just kind of like happens, and like it's interesting with like the EMDR therapy. Like it made my eyes kind of like shutter.
Twitch. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like did that. Like you would in sleep, and every
Hmm.
like as the experience was getting more and more intense, I'd like meditate, and then my eyes would just be doing that, and it felt like I was just like coating like layers and layers of like dream world on top of my world. So I was like,
Hmm.
as it was happening, I was kind of aware that my dream world was kind of like coming up into this one. So
Hmm.
it's not like I was. I feel like there's often the impression that when this is happening, like there's a lack of control, which there is, but I think I felt like empowered in certain parts of it too, which I
Yeah,
don't think,
absolutely.
yeah, is talked about.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a feeling of empowerment, a feeling like you've understood a truth of some sort, that you've unlocked a potential in yourself that you haven't been able to your whole life. And it's like, oh, finally, I did it.
Mm,
At least for me, it was like that.
yeah, no, I definitely had that. Yeah, like
Yeah.
getting out when I was like in the lift experience, I had to like, it was just this understanding that I was like alone and that no one could get me out of like a dark place except for myself.
Hmm.
And I like sang my way out of the lift, which again is really embarrassing for anyone that was seeing me do this, but I felt like very empowered in the moment. And I was like,
Yeah.
if I can get out of the underworld, I can do anything. But obviously, after you come down from the experience, and then you're kind of like, that's not necessarily that feeling like stays. Or at least it didn't stay with me. But I do have that like deep inside. It's just kind of finding feet again.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the feelings of my psychosis are still within me. It's just like it's kind of like when we're kids, like we're dreaming, we're like playful, like we can become a frog and nobody's like, oh, they're just being a kid, you know, or you could be like, I'm a witch, you know, and like they're just like acting like a witch. But like if you do that as like an adult, people are like, what the fuck is wrong with this person, you know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like our inner child is still like in there, but it's got like the coatings of like an adult, and so it sort of can function and it knows how to commune with the environment. Kids don't really know how to interact with the environment. That's why they need parents to sort of arbitrate that. Because if
Mm,
they were left on their own, they would end up hurt or dead, you know, because they don't
yeah.
really, they're still kind of in a dream world. Like kids are basically like little psychotics, basically. Like if you look at little kids or babies, they're like, ah! You know, like they're like flying around like a plane. Like I don't know, you know, they're a little crazy. They're just high all the time, you know. And then they get really scared, you know, super scared, or they get, you know, they get sad and they get stuck in those moods. They get stuck in states,
Mm.
you know.
Yeah, I
And
felt
as
like a
adults,
child, like it just especially with like the like darkness. It's
mhm,
like darkness transforms into like monsters and demons
mhm,
and things like that, which is like reminded me of when I was little and I was like scared to
mhm.
like sleep without the light on.
Yeah, for sure. So I think like I don't know, maybe the feelings of psychosis like bring back like childhood again to some degree. I don't know. That's just like
Mm.
a random thought that crossed my mind. It's like maybe there's a
Yeah.
connection there.
Yeah, it's like yeah, it felt like the world was like a playground, I guess. Like
Mhm,
it's no inhibitions and not worrying like, oh, is that weird or should I be doing this at this age?
mhm.
That just like all leaves you, which is like an element of it which I like wanted to kind of try and keep to like a socially acceptable degree. And like I don't want to do it all the time, so now like I'm just socially excluded. But like I think it's important to have like that element. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, do you want me to yeah, should I go into some of the like more wild parts of my experience without
Yeah,
like
go for it.
yeah.
Yeah, go for it. Share whatever you want to.
Yeah, so like
Yeah.
one of my like the reasons I wanted to share is just because I think a lot of them the things that are happening are so wild it can almost feel like when you're back in the world, like how am I gonna like relate to a person again?
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I had when I was put in the isolation kind of chamber, um, yeah, I basically was told that I was going into like the 2D world of cartoons,
Mhm.
um, which like appeared to me like a bunch of like dancing teddy bears, which is like
Hmm.
all really strange like visuals. Because like on psychedelics, you see like I don't know kaleidoscopic, I don't know like tribal patterns, but this was like really childlike, which I guess maybe connects. But yeah, I was just seeing teddy bears like kind of like hugging and can-canning, and I
Yeah.
felt like so much love for this like 2D place. And I was being told that I had to make a decision whether I should come back to live in the 3D body or whether I should I'm gonna stay on and live in a cartoon.
You were being
So
told, were you being told by like your
yeah, like
experience or?
yeah, so I had an inner like it felt like an inner guide or a voice because it wasn't like I was hearing like an angry like I don't know much about like hearing voices as like a thing. I haven't heard people's kind of experience,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
yeah, it felt like an inner kind of like dialogue that was quite
Mhm.
strong to the point that I
Like an
like
intuition kind of thing.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
it felt like a spiritual teacher. And yeah, I was being told that I could choose whether to stay in this cartoon like world or go back to like being in a body. Um, and I decided to go back into the body. And then yeah, this is like I such a strange experience. Like I started like crying like a baby, and it felt like I was like crying, and then my voice like sped up, and I could like
Hmm.
feel myself like growing back in. And then it like kept speeding up until it was my voice now.
Hmm.
Um, and then I was kind of like back in the body, which I was just kind of like, oh my God, thank you. Which I don't know, maybe I want to live in the 2D world. I'm not sure. Um,
Yeah.
and I had to like, I then was a Buddha statue for a while, so I like had to kind of live out life as a Buddha statue for a few hours. But then I was like
Mm.
kind of back into a human body. Um, which is yeah one of the kind of things that I fully don't know what to do with in terms of afterwards. And it was really hard like I guess to relate to like people in the world when you've like had that kind of experience. And I tried to
Yeah.
like look it up online, like has anyone else like seen yeah like like dancing cartoons and stuff like that. But I actually haven't, yeah, I haven't found anyone that's had like a similar experience. Like the only things that I can find similar to are like people that have done like salvia or something. They're like I experienced life as like a doorknob for like however long. So
Mm.
it like makes me feel like some of these experiences have parallels with like psychedelic
Oh, for sure.
states. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is really interesting. And I
Yeah.
think like when they did tests for well when the antipsychotics I think are based off like they did trials on people that were on LSD, and I think antipsychotics were made to kind of like lessen the effects of the acid. At least that's
Mm.
what I've heard. I don't know how true it was. So like,
Mm.
immediately they made this like parallel between this like LSD state and altered states, but they don't seem to take that into account when treating people.
Mm.
Because I think it'd be kind of cool if everyone could like share their like story. I mean, probably many people don't want to. I think that's the thing. Like some people don't like talking about it because the voices
Yeah.
aren't nice and things like that.
Yeah. And there's shame, I think, to some
Mm,
degree, and fear, because it's not really accepted. Like in traditional cultures, altered states and experiencing different states of consciousness was really like important to their cultures and respected. Like Native American wisdom. I don't want to speak for those communities because I'm not from one, but like from what I've learned from shamanism and what my teacher Iggy, who's a Peruvian shaman, has taught me, it's like altered states are part of their culture. Like when you tell somebody like a dream, or you tell somebody like you experience this different state of consciousness, that's like normal. Like they recognize that as part of the human experience. It's not something that's like it's extraordinary, but it's also not. Like it's part
Mm.
of being a human. It's part of being a spirit in this world, you know, like a living being. That there's different
Yeah.
dimensions, there's different experiences that we can have, and it's a spectrum, not just like black and white, you know. There's a whole variation of things that can happen, and there's internal stories, there's external stories, there's like within this planet stories. It's like all connected into kind of one thing, and it's like, yeah, you know, you experience that. That's cool, you know.
Yeah. How different would our world be if we thought that way? Like, it'd be a completely different world.
Yeah, well, that's why a lot of people say that, like, you know, when you have a psychosis, like you're the next shaman or whatever, which is like, I think it's true, but also sort of not true. It depends. Like, that's not that it's not true. Like, I think everybody has the potential to experience altered states. Someone who goes through psychosis experiences a different kind of altered state than someone who like induces it with drugs. You know, it doesn't mean that you're a shaman. It means that like you've experienced different things. What you do with it makes you a shaman or a healer.
Mm.
Versus, you know, it depends like what you do with it. You know, because like you could break your leg and you know your leg heals and you play sports again, I guess. But like if you break your leg and you like learn how to heal your leg, and then you help somebody else how to heal their leg when it's
Mm.
broken, then you
Yeah.
become a healer. You know, otherwise you're just a guy who broke their leg. You know,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that, but like not everybody chooses to go down that other path.
Hey, can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. Yeah, I broke up for a little
Hey.
bit there. We're back. So I didn't hear
I don't know what
anything you
happened.
said after I finished talking.
Yeah. I don't think I remember what I said. Oh yeah, it was about the whole shaman. Like if you have psychosis, it could be
Mhm,
like I don't know, like a template for being a shaman,
mhm.
which yeah, I think is interesting. And it's definitely like, yeah, it's an idea that I think should be introduced, but like not as like a strict thing. Like, yeah, it'd
Yeah,
be funny, not funny. Like it wouldn't be helpful if everyone was like pinholed to being a shaman after they have like a yeah.
no.
But it's
It's a
also really
personal
helpful.
choice, you know.
Yeah, but it'd
Yeah.
be also really helpful if you could have support if you wanted to do something like that with the experience, because I think there's not
Yeah.
really anything like that. It's just kind of
Hmm.
go back to the material world and like continue, which I think is good because to a certain degree. But for me, I was just like, are you kidding? You're telling me this, and I've just told you like I was a cartoon for like this amount of time. Like I don't know what to, what to do. Like I think there's like an element of kind of like um, forcing that on people that I think would rather have like some form of I don't know support for like wild experiences, and it's almost like because they don't they call them delusions, and they don't see them as meaningful. They kind of like take it out of the equation.
Yeah. Which is unfortunate because it's like what someone experienced. It's basically like saying like it's basically the same thing as like someone having like a cup of coffee and being like, "Oh, like I tasted that coffee and it like was real, you know, like I had the cup of coffee in my hand." But then someone says like, "No, that's not real," you
Yeah,
know, because
I think
like
you're
or
having
like
a delusion.
yeah,
think,
exactly. Or like it's I guess a better example would be like if you love somebody, but someone can't see that you love somebody. You know, they can't like see the emotion
mm,
necessarily. They're like, "Oh, that's not real" or something. I don't know. It's hard to equate. It's so hard because like it's like an unseen world that's happening in your mind and like in your body. Like your whole physiology is involved with it. And
yeah,
some for some people it's a whole different world entirely. Like for you, like you were in a cartoon, you know.
yeah,
So like and for someone to say like yeah no it's all just nothing,
yeah.
like
If someone's
what the hell,
yeah,
like what do you do with that? Like it just makes you like it makes you repress the experience and it makes you feel like a piece of shit, you know. It's like
yeah, which is
what
definitely
the
not
hell.
what you want to be feeling after like an experience like that because it yeah like you say it takes you through the like ringers like you experience well I was experiencing like really hard like evil emotions and kind of like all these dark things and it was like really tiring and I felt like I kind of had given it everything and then the that happened to me when I got to the hospital was, yeah, like I had to pee in a cup, and then I had to sit in a courtroom where this like Dutch woman told me that I was like irresponsible and that I was going to go back to the UK. And I was just like, I've had a really like hard experience, guys.
Yeah.
Like it was like what there was no like support. Like yeah, I don't get why that's the first thing that happens when you're through the door, that like they test your pee. Like I think that says a lot about what they think about you. But that's like the first thing that they do.
Yeah, they don't like talk to you and like ask you if you're okay, stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Which is like a
Yeah,
really simple, like probably really beneficial thing that they could do.
yeah, yeah. So, well, we're running up to like 41 minutes. So, is there anything that you want to talk about, like to end it, or you want to keep talking, or?
Oh yeah, well I guess I'll just say like yeah, if anyone wants to follow me on Instagram, like I'm trying to make art from it. Like I think it'd be cool if I don't know, we could all just like share our art. I don't know if it will work as a like a concept, but like I think storytelling is like a really like powerful thing to kind of be doing. So yeah, thank you for like having me and letting me tell my story,
Yeah,
because I think like the more we like speak about it and the more we can kind of like take it away, or like because I think it's really nuanced and like loads of people have different experiences. So I'm not like, I really don't want to force my experience on anyone or say like everyone like start making art. Like it's the thing we have to do. But like if anyone's interested and that seems like something that will help them, and I like yeah, I like love to connect with people that have had kind of like yeah outlandish things happen to like
yeah,
them. So yeah, I'll just drop
yeah.
that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I'll put the Instagram link in the description below,
Yeah, that
so
sounds
then they can see it, and maybe I'll post it on the screen too, so people can
cool.
be lazy and just go directly from the
Yeah,
screen, not have to scroll down. So cool.
yeah,
Well, it was a
sweet.
pleasure having you on, Anna. Super cool. Thanks for sharing your story.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, and maybe you'll be on again at some point in the future again. Who knows?
Who knows?
Or I can go to your channel. You can interview me and be like, hey, what did he, So
Troy is a cartoon or something.
yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. As always, guys, make sure to seek your truth and to take time for yourself. And if you want to join me for any videos like this, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram and we can get something set up. All right. See you later, guys.